Welcome to the Exam Room Live, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. Hi, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll, and this is the healthiest half hour anywhere online today. Appreciate you joining us here on Facebook and on YouTube. Coming up today, fiber everywhere, but not a drop in meat. What is so special about this powerhouse nutrient and why you'll be better off if you are fiber-fueled? We're going to find out when we speak with the Gut Health MD himself. Dr. Will Bulsiewicz is on the Exam Room Live with us today. Dr. Bulsiewicz, appreciate you being here, my friend.
Chuck, it's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to come on the air with you, my friend, and I'm excited to talk to everyone about fiber.
All right, and you have 5 fiber facts that you need to know, so stick around for that. Also today on the show, the coronavirus. How many of us have been exposed, and what does that mean for where we are in our quest to return to normal? Dr. Neal Barnard here with a look at a new study shedding light on how many people have actually had it and what this could mean for you. Dr. Barnard, important study coming out. Greatly appreciate you taking the time to shed some light on this for us.
You bet, Chuck.
And if you have a question for the good doctor, go ahead and post that in the comments section now. We'll be opening up the doctor's mailbag in just a little bit, so go ahead, post yours, or you can send them to us on Twitter using the hashtag ExamRoomLive. But before we go any further, let's get caught up on what's happened over the weekend. Here are your health headlines for Monday, September 28th. 2020. And let's go ahead and start with a look at the coronavirus by the numbers. More than 135,000 new cases added over the 72 hours spanning Friday to Sunday. The total caseload now in excess of 7.1 million. This, as the New York Times reports, a 23% increase in the number of infections over the last 2 weeks. And the worldwide death toll about to reach a big milestone, expected to reach 1 million deaths today, with Americans accounting for about 1 out of every 5. And in a related story, people whose symptoms develop quickly often fare the worst in their fight against COVID-19. Researchers studied more than 250 patients at a California hospital between March and May, finding those who were hospitalized within 3 days of developing symptoms were more than 5 times as likely to die as those whose symptoms developed more gradually. The study also finds these patients tended to be older and had much higher rates of higher blood pressure and other underlying conditions known to affect COVID-19. But researchers say, interestingly, the same group was less likely to have more common symptoms such as cough, shortness of breath, or a fever. And finally, in much different news, Victoria Beckham is telling her nearly 29 million followers on Instagram what she wants. What she really wants. She wants to get meat and dairy out of her diet. And she doesn't want to be a wannabe vegan. She's the real deal. The Spice Girls member is following in the footsteps of her famous soccer star husband, David Beckham, who recently announced that he too has taken meat off the menu, swapping out steak in favor of smoked watermelon. That sounds pretty good. Victoria Beckham, by the way, has previously spoken about issues with acne, and perhaps this new way of eating can help her with that as well. Okay, let's move on here. 5 facts about fiber you need to know coming up in just a little bit. Stick around for Dr. Will Bulsiewicz. But right now, let's go ahead and take a closer look at where we stand with the pandemic. A new study is offering a glimpse of just how many of us have already been exposed to the coronavirus and how close we may be to being able to achieve what is known as herd immunity. For that, we turn to Dr. Neal Barnard. And Dr. Barnard, the numbers here, I think a lot of us may wish that they were a little bit better. What does this study tell us?
Yes, this was a really interesting new study. It was published in The Lancet, and I have it right here. But let me zoom in on my screen, if you don't mind. I want to show you the actual numbers from the study itself. Can you see this? It was 28,503 dialysis patients. Now, why would you use dialysis patients? A laboratory realized that if you're going to look at people, not necessarily thinking that they were infected or whatever, you just wanted a broad group of people. To do that, you need blood samples from people. Well, who has blood testing every single time they come in? Dialysis people, dialysis patients. So they had more than 28,000 of them all throughout the United States. And they tested them in July. So the virus had arrived. It had percolated through the population pretty well. And where were we? Well, where we were in July was that 8.3% overall were seropositive. That means they had been exposed to the virus. They may have had symptoms, They may have not have had symptoms. They may not even have known they had it, but they were in some way exposed. In the West, the numbers were really low. West, I'm talking about North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, Wyoming, most of the Western states, very low, 3.5% of the population. Northeast, much higher, more than 27%. And in New York State, 33.6%. Let me show you the map so you can have a look and see. Up there in the upper right, 33.6% New York State. And then looking down, going to Pennsylvania, 6.4%, Ohio, 3%, Indiana, 3.1%. What do these numbers tell us? What they tell us is that most people in the United States have this virus to look forward to. In other words, as bad as these numbers are, and Chuck, at the top of the hour, you mentioned we've got 7.1 million cases so far. That's 2%. Of the U.S. population. So what that means is that a lot of people have not been exposed and aren't going to be exposed for a while. So where are we? What it really means, in my estimation, is that compared to a year ago at this time, the virus wasn't here. Nobody had been exposed. There was zero positivity. Nobody had been exposed, but the virus was starting to creep over at the end of last year, the beginning of this year, through Europe, into New York, and through the West Coast. And it became widespread throughout the country. Where are we now? We're in the same situation in that most Americans still haven't been exposed, but the virus is here in their communities. So my guess is that unless we have a vaccine and have a vaccine fairly soon, we are going to see an outbreak this winter worse than last winter because the virus is here and most people haven't had it yet. So I'm sorry to give you the bad news, but I don't think that this means that we are anywhere near conquering it. The only things that are going to change that are the appearance of a vaccine, extremely rigid masking and social distancing, which I'm not seeing things changing very much. Or the pattern we're seeing in some of the densely populated urban areas like New York and Chicago, you are going to see it eventually dying out with herd immunity there. We're closer there than anywhere, but we're basically not there anywhere in the United States yet.
So it's just going to require being vigilant for some time longer. But, I think that as dire as those numbers sound, the bottom line is eventually we will get through this. And that's something that I think we need to take solace in right now when we're hearing that less than 1 in 10 of us have been exposed to this, or 2.1% of the population now has actually had the coronavirus. So, a long way to go, but eventually we will get there.
Oh, there's no question about it. We will get there, but it's really such a slow process, and it isn't turning out the way many had hoped, that this would be a tough virus in March, April, May, and then we'd all be back to normal. It's a much slower burn than that. And so many people are betting on the possibility that a vaccine will be a big game changer. Hopefully that'll be the case. But I think for now, it's going to be just it's sort of like one of these storms. You see it on the horizon, and it just gradually approaches, and Chuck, that's really where we are. So we still want to take good care of ourselves in addition to masking and everything else. Good diet, regular exercise, trim away the weight to the extent that we're able to, get the diabetes, hypertension, weight under as good a control as possible. Plant-based diet, always job one.
And you know what? This entire thing is so stressful for so many people, and that's why I'm glad that we have this question for the doctor's mailbag today. So let's go ahead and open that up before we get 5 facts about fiber that you need to know. Dr. Barnard, today's question comes to us from Kaori. She's watching us on YouTube. She writes, I've been whole food plant-based for 2.5 years, and my question pertains to stress, which I have been under a lot of recently. What foods or combinations of food work to help relieve stress in times like this?
Well, hello, Kaori, and congratulations on adopting a healthy diet. That's fantastic. It's good for you personally, and I know that it also may rub off on people around you, so that's all good. Dealing with stress, you are not alone. Let's face it, stress is a part of day-to-day life anyway, and over the past 9-10 months, stress has been heightened for so many people, and it's aggravated by economic issues and changing familial responsibilities and so forth. So I feel your pain. What are a few things? A couple of obvious things. Caffeine, be careful about it. For many people, it's their go-to thing in the morning. But if it makes you edgier or not really yourself, that's something to think about. There's caffeine in coffee. Tea has about half the caffeine compared to a cup of coffee, but it's also in a lot of colas and Dr. Pepper and those things. So be careful about that. Be careful about alcohol. For some people, that's their way to lull themselves into sleep. But in the middle of the night, it's metabolized to other compounds called aldehydes that can be stimulants and can make your sleep rocky. So alcohol doesn't necessarily work very well as a way to calm down. Two other things that might surprise you. There was a study that came out a couple months ago looking at saturated fat. That's the bad fat that we normally think about as a contributor to cholesterol problems and maybe to Alzheimer's disease. But there is also some evidence it can contribute to stress because high saturated fat diets seem to have a cognitive effect of dulling cognition, making people feel a bit less in control. So you're laying off the gravy and meat and cheese now, and that avoiding those high saturated fat foods is going to help you. And if your family members follow your lead, that's good too. Last thing, plant proteins, plant sources of carbohydrates. These have very different effects on the brain. If you want to go to sleep, it's 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, and you're anticipating lying down in a little bit. Favor high carbohydrate foods. So for dinner, pasta, potatoes, breads, high carbohydrate foods cause the production of serotonin in the brain that helps you sleep. Plant protein does the opposite. So in the morning, if you have some grilled tofu, tempeh, scrambled tofu, or even beans, the protein in those foods blocks serotonin production, and that allows you to wake up. So if you are sleepy in the morning, your stress is going to be worse. So have plant protein in the morning, high carbohydrate plant foods in the evening. You'll find you do better. If you wake up in the middle of the night, you need a little boost of serotonin around 3 in the morning to go back to sleep. Get out of bed, have a little bit of bread, go back to bed, and while you are lying down, the serotonin is created. You go back to sleep. Plant protein wakes you up. Plant carbohydrate put you to sleep.
Well, so if plant carbohydrates are good and they can help, regulate your sleep and even help alleviate some of that stress, is that then to say that a low carb diet that is rich in animal protein then is going to kind of get you revved up and not help you cope with that stress so much?
Oh, that's the worst of all possible worlds. When people do a ketogenic diet or a high animal protein diet, what do you get? You get the protein along with the saturated fat. You don't get any of the fiber that keeps your gut microbiome together. No. Protein is useful, but it should be plant-derived protein. And by the way, I didn't mean to say that carbohydrate will always necessarily put you to sleep. Let's say you want to be very physically active, so you need carbohydrate to keep your blood glucose up. The way you do it is you pre-treat with protein. You can try this tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, have, say, some grilled tempeh for breakfast. That's your pre-treatment of plant protein. Then have your higher carbohydrate food second. So your bowl of oatmeal or something like that. That gives you the carbohydrate you need. But because of the high protein intake first, it will block the serotonin production. You'll have lots of energy. So carbohydrate is always good, but if you want to stay awake, pre-treat with plant protein.
There you go, pre-treat with plant protein. Yeah. Fantastic. Dr. Barnard, appreciate that, my friend.
You bet, Chuck.
All right. If we didn't get to your question today, we will save it, I promise you, and try to get you an answer on an upcoming episode. So go ahead, keep on posting those in the comments section or send them to us on Twitter or Instagram. Just make sure that you use that hashtag ExamRoomLive. All right. Who is ready to go to nutrition school and learn about fiber? You just heard Dr. Barnard mention that. And my next guest, well, he says that fiber may just also be the cure to what ails you. He loves it so much that he's written an entire book on it called Fiber Fueled. He is a board-certified gastroenterologist and an all-around good guy. Please welcome Dr. Will Bulsiewicz back to the Exam Room Live, better known as the Gut Health MD. How are you, sir?
Chuck, it's a pleasure to be on the air with you here today. I love the way that you say my last name. You're one of the few people that it sounds like it's rolling off your tongue so effortlessly. And it makes me wonder whether or not you're actually Eastern European, and I didn't realize it. It's quite impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. The fact of the matter is, I was a huge NYPD Blue fan growing up, so Sipowicz rolled off the tongue. So now I've got Bulsiewicz, and it's just so easy. It's just too easy.
Anyone with a WICZ or anything that is similar to that, even WITS, I automatically just feel this kinship with them, and I can appreciate that. So thank you for that, Chuck.
You're my guy. All right, now let's be everybody's guy here, Dr. Will Bulsiewicz. You've got 5 facts about fiber that everyone should know. So let's go ahead and tee them up. Fact number 1, the stage is yours.
Fact number 1, all right, hold on just a moment. I apologize. I should pull this up.
I stumped you. It's okay. I can help you out. I happen to have a cheat sheet in front of me. You just say the word, my friend.
All right, here we go. Here we go, Chuck. So fact number 1 is that on a massive clinical review, they found that fiber is consistently associated with longevity. This is a longevity food, folks. It protects us from numerous diseases. Chuck, can I unpack that a little bit?
Oh, dissect it, impact it, do whatever you got to do with it.
Okay. So this is a study that was published in January of 2019. They used the highest quality evidence that exists. This is important for people to understand because there is a hierarchy of evidence. And the hierarchy of evidence is important because sometimes you'll hear people talk about a rat study or an anecdote, and they'll use that information as if it's just as good as a randomized controlled trial or a meta-analysis where they basically compile all of the data into one place. In this study that was published in January of 2019, they used only the highest quality information that exists. Randomized controlled trials and meta-analyses. That's all that they used. And what they found in this study, Chuck, was something that was so empowering when it comes to the health benefits of fiber. It was, I mean, it's rare that you will see a study speak so powerfully to one nutrient or one thing in our diet. They found that fiber reduces our risk of having a heart attack, reduces our risk of dying of a heart attack. That's our number 1 killer. Fiber reduces our risk of developing colon cancer. That's the number 2 cause of cancer death in America. It reduces our likelihood of having a stroke. It reduces our likelihood of having diabetes. They found that people live longer when they consume fiber. And by the way, they also lose weight when they consume fiber. The bottom line is that in this study where they compiled the data, they brought the highest quality resources to the table, laid it on the table, and they saw what it showed. They found that fiber is one of the healthiest things that you can include in your diet. And this is important, Chuck, because 97% of Americans are not getting an adequate amount of fiber. And that's what's really important.
Say that number again. How many percentages of Americans?
97% of Americans are not getting enough fiber. 97% of Americans are consuming too much protein. And we sit around and we ask, where am I going to get my protein from? And it's time for us to shift, to turn the table and say, where am I going to get my fiber from? We need to turn the emphasis towards the fiber because we have plenty of protein. We don't need to worry about that.
Oh, America, we can definitely do better than 3%. Come on now. All right. Fact number 2. This is a great one, especially for fans of gut bacteria. And as crazy as that sounds, I know there are plenty of them watching right now.
Fact number 2, Chuck, fiber is the preferred food of our gut bugs. Okay. This is the preferred food of our gut bugs. Now that sounds a little bit weird. When we think about fiber, most of us think about, okay, fiber goes in the mouth. It passes through, it kind of sweeps some stuff out, and it comes out the other end as a bowel movement. That has been sort of the way that we were raised on fiber. It's time for us to re-examine our relationship with fiber. It's time to acknowledge that this is not the fiber that you were thinking about when your grandma was stirring the orange drink in the morning. This is a new fiber. This is the sexy fiber, okay? This is the 2020 version where fiber goes in the mouth, passes through the intestine until it gets to your colon. And when it gets there, it comes into contact with your gut bugs. These gut bugs, they get into a feeding frenzy and they are devouring this fiber because this is their preferred food. And the beauty of it, Chuck, is that when you feed your gut bugs, you empower them. They grow stronger and then they turn around and they want to reward you. They want to heal your body. Your gut bugs can be your best friends.
Yeah, that's a phrase that you don't really hear every day. Your gut bugs can be your best friends. Let's stick on gut bugs for fact number 3, because I know that when you happen to eat fiber, they release something very important. What is that?
By the way, Chuck, don't be jealous that my gut bugs are my best friends. I realize that you and I are friends, but don't be jealous, my friend. Okay?
You're my guy, man.
All right.
I thought it was like me here, gut bugs here, me here, but no, it's the other way around. Gut bugs, then me.
It's very close. It's very close. Nonetheless, moving on to number 3, the beauty of it is this. When you feed your gut bugs, when they consume this fiber, they will turn around and reward you. What do they reward you with? The most powerful thing in nutrition that I've ever come across: short chain fatty acids. Short chain fatty acids are what we would describe as a postbiotic. A postbiotic, we've heard about probiotics, right? Probiotics are the living bacteria that are good for us. By the way, the probiotics you don't need to take as a capsule. They already live inside of you. We're now hearing more about prebiotics. Prebiotics are the food for the gut microbes, fiber. Fiber is the prebiotic. But the beauty is that prebiotics come together with probiotics, and what they release are the postbiotics. These postbiotics are the real game changers, not just when it comes to gut health, by the way, Chuck, not just when it comes to gut health, but for the entire body. So, just to walk you through real quick, because I could talk all day about these short chain fatty acids. I'm totally obsessed with them. Butyrate, acetate, and propionate. They heal the gut. They reverse leaky gut. They empower the good microbes inside of you. They actually suppress the inflammatory ones like E. coli, Salmonella, Shigella. They directly prevent colon cancer. Remember, I said in the beginning, fiber prevents colon cancer. It's been proven. They also optimize our immune system. They affect insulin sensitivity. Again, I said fiber prevents type 2 diabetes. They actually spread throughout our entire body with anti-inflammatory benefits. We think that they prevent coronary artery disease, our number one killer. And they travel upstairs, they fix the blood-brain barrier, and they cross the blood-brain barrier and actually prevent Alzheimer's disease. So what we're talking about is something with healing benefits throughout the entire body. It is incredibly powerful. And it's time for us to make sure that we're getting enough of these short chain fatty acids. And the way that we do that is by eating more fiber.
Get on board the short chain fatty acid train. I'm loving hearing that. Number 4 is one that I think a lot of people wonder about. So go ahead and spill that one for us, my friend.
Okay. Number 4, this is really important. When you start getting into the logistics of, okay, well, doc, where am I going to get my fiber from? I want you guys to know up front, not all fiber is the same. Okay. Don't just count grams of fiber. Don't go out and buy a Fiber One bar because they advertise that they got 5 grams of fiber in there. That's not what it's about. It's about plants. All plants contain fiber. All plants contain prebiotic fiber that will feed your gut microbiome. There is no plant devoid of fiber. There is no plant that will not enhance your gut microbiome. And the beauty of it is, Chuck, is that each of these plants have different types of fiber that will feed different microbes within your gut. And that is a beautiful thing.
All right. And take us home. Fact number 5, my friend.
All right. Taking it home and just driving the final point forward. And if there's only one thing that you paid attention to today, let it be this: that eating a diversity of plants at every single meal is the best way to optimize your microbiome. This is the take-home point. This is the core philosophy that you need in your diet. I value and appreciate that many of the people who are listening to us right now, Chuck, already eat a plant-based diet, but we can do better. We can do better. And the way that we do better is by making sure that at every meal, we're adding in those extra herbs and spices. We're looking for, the zucchini, the mushrooms, the onions that we can throw into our tomato sauce to spice it up. There are opportunities at every meal to get more variety, more diversity of plants. And when you get diversity of plants, you're getting diversity of fiber. And when you get diversity of fiber, you are feeding as many different types of gut bugs as you can possibly feed. In a diverse microbiome is a strong, resilient microbiome. It's the type of microbiome that every single one of us wants to have. The way that we get that is by eating a diversity of plants. So make this a core philosophy for your life.
Yeah, we still have a couple minutes here. Would you be okay if we grabbed a couple of questions from viewers right now?
I would love to do that, Chuck. Let's grab a couple questions. And while you're working on that, one thing that I wanted to say real quick, I hope you don't mind, is that as I was listening to the update on COVID-19, I was thinking to myself, there's a lot here for us actually to be very optimistic about. Okay. Because we should not be cheering for every single one of us to be infected. We shouldn't think, okay, the best case scenario is every single one of us has to face this virus and let it run through our system. Instead, from my perspective, what I heard from that is that when we got the proper measures in place throughout the country, because New York, frankly, we didn't know we had a problem until we were very late in the game. When we got the proper measures in place, we were able to really slow down the progress of this virus. And that, to me, is a beautiful thing, because I'm not projecting out 5 years thinking that we're still in this battle 5 years from now. What I'm thinking these days is I'm thinking, let's have as few people have to be exposed to this virus as possible. And then let's, using the protections that we currently have, and then let's get a healthy vaccine that will protect us in place so that we can move forward beyond this virus. That's what I'm hoping.
All right, man. Good thoughts, man. Fingers crossed. Here we go. 1220. Oh, man. This is one I'm sure a lot of people are wondering. This is from Hexacorn at 1220. Wants to know, what's better, insoluble fiber or soluble fiber?
Okay. So I said before, there are many, many different types of fiber. We think that there's at least millions, potentially even billions of types of fiber that exist in nature. And to keep it simple, we have broken it into soluble versus insoluble fiber. The soluble fiber is the one that you could put into a beverage, stir, and it will dissolve. It will disappear. Insoluble fiber is the grit. It is the roughage. It will not dissolve no matter what you do. You could boil that water, there will still be grit and roughage in there. So that's the difference between the two. Now, which is better? I personally, if I have to give my heart to one of these two, I would give my heart to soluble fiber. Soluble fiber is the fiber that actually feeds the gut microbiome. This is the type of fiber that they consume and ultimately turn into short-chain fatty acids. If you want short-chain fatty acids, you should aim towards soluble fiber. But the beauty of it is this: if you eat a diversity of plants, every plant has its own mix of soluble versus insoluble fiber. You don't need to prioritize one plant versus another. Just eat them all in abundance, in diversity, and you will be more than feeding your gut microbiome exactly what it's starving for.
All right. Good question here from Lisa at 1220. What about a person who gets the runs from fiber? So I'm guessing maybe they're transitioning over to a plant-based diet here?
Lisa, this is a great question. So when we start to shift our diet towards a plant-based diet, and I think, Chuck, you're probably right. As we start to shift towards a plant-based diet, we have to think about the fact that fiber is not meant to be something where we just cannonball into the pool. We're supposed to ease our body into it. It's kind of like exercise. When you go to the gym, you wouldn't show up the first day and lift the heaviest weight that exists in the gym. You would show up and you would go nice and light that first day, and then you would come back next time and you would do just a little bit more. And that's the way that we need to approach our fiber.
And same principle apply for gas, because we had somebody else asking about that. Should you slowly transition over to minimize the amount of gas you're producing?
Yeah, that is something that you need to think about. But I would add one more thing, Chuck, which is that many people who suffer with gas and bloating are actually constipated. And believe it or not, you could poop every single day, still be constipated. If you're not completely emptying, you are backing up. And the issue that exists is that if you are constipated and you start to rapidly ramp up your fiber, you will find that you are going to get even more gas, bloating, and flatulence. And so it's important for the person who is not moving their bowels through to establish a rhythm. And ideally, this should be done before you even really start to ramp up your fiber. Because when your gut is in a rhythm, you will find it is so much easier for your body to adapt to the fiber that you are now introducing.
All right, now let's talk about what it was you were just discussing, because we had somebody ask this question 3 times. How do you know if you have completely emptied your bowels? We're just going to get really dirty here. So how do you know if you've completely emptied your bowels other than stepping on the scale and saying, oh my God, I lost 3 pounds?
Okay, so you call it dirty. I call it my day job. This is what I do for a living. But that being, and I talk about it literally all day because I go home and my 4-year-old son wants to talk about it when I get home. But nonetheless, the symptoms that are associated with constipation are what you should be aware of to begin with, which is that gas, bloating, abdominal discomfort that could be in any of a number of locations: left lower, left upper, right lower, or even around the belly button, could all be due to constipation. Nausea, loss of appetite, getting full very quickly, even acid reflux and fatigue can be symptoms associated with constipation. So the point, Chuck, is that when we are completely emptying, we have that sense of relief. We don't have to go to the bathroom again in 30 minutes because we have completely emptied. And there is none of these symptoms because there is no backing up. And so when you are moving things through adequately, you have that sense of complete relief. You also are not suffering from the symptoms that are associated with constipation.
All right, final question comes to us from Randy at 1226. Simply put, is there such a thing as eating too much fiber?
There is such a thing as consuming too much fiber. And it's kind of like going back to the exercise analogy, Chuck, that there is such a thing as pushing your body too hard from a fitness perspective. So for the person who's going to the gym, you have limitations of what your body is capable of doing. And what you want to do is you want to push those limitations to a higher level. So when you're working out, you work out just below that threshold where you would hurt yourself or do some harm. Same is true with fiber. You should not push your fiber content to the level that you actually feel gas and bloating, feel discomfort. Instead, you should push it to that level where you are able to get more fiber into your diet, exercise your gut, make your gut microbiome stronger, allow it to adapt with what you're doing to your diet, but not push it so hard that you're going to actually hurt yourself.
You know what, Dr. B? I done told a fiber fib. I'm going to sneak one more question in on you. That was not the last question. This is the last question from Darnetta at 1227. Going to ask this one because it gets asked so frequently. What are your thoughts on juicing versus blending fruits and vegetables?
Okay, so I'm a fiber lover, right? I'm a fiber lover. So I think you know what my answer is going to be, which is that why would we remove the fiber, which is what juicing does? Why would we remove the fiber and throw it in the trash can when we could be sending it down to our gut bugs so that they can consume it and thrive off of it, turn it into short chain fatty acids and heal our body? So from my perspective, I am certainly more of a believer in smoothies or homogenized, salads than I am in juicing. That is not to say that I would villainize juicing and say that there's no place for juicing whatsoever. It's just that when we do juice, it should not be done as the centerpiece of our diet. And it should be really done with, frankly, a bitter juice that is predominantly vegetables, where you're doing it for the purpose of getting phytonutrients, and you're doing it as a boost or a supplement beyond an already healthy diet where you're consuming an abundance and a diversity of plants.
But then with the smoothies, when you put those whole fruits, those whole vegetables in, say, a Vitamix, do you destroy the fiber at all there, even if you're keeping the peels and everything on there, or is it still good to go?
No, it's still good to go. You're not destroying the fiber where it's inadequate. I mean, do I think that it would be better for you to actually put the whole food into your mouth and chew it the old-fashioned way? Yes, I would. But for many people, to create a smoothie, it is a way for them to get more of these health-promoting plants into their diet. And so to me, I celebrate that. I think it's a beautiful thing.
All right. The name of the book is Fiber Fueled, and you definitely fueled us with 5 fiber facts and more today. Dr. Will Bulsiewicz, appreciate you, my man. Look at you with the book. That is fantastic marketing. I am proud to have you on this show, sir.
Chuck, thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure to connect with you. You have now surpassed my gut microbes. You are my best friend. Thank you.
That is outstanding. Ah, man, you have made my day. You made my week, and it's only Monday. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We will do this again very soon, best friend.
All right, my friends. You take care.
All right, pick up a copy of that book at your local bookstore or on Amazon. Go ahead and do that right now. Pick up one for a friend, too. I happen to think with the holidays coming up right around the corner, who wouldn't want a fiber-fueled stocking stuffer? Just saying. All right, coming up on the show tomorrow, we're going to stay with this super nerdy trend. Dr. Hana Kaliova is going to be here with a new look at a study showing how your personality is affecting your diet. So, how does the food on the plate of somebody who's, light and lively differ from somebody who's a little bit curmudgeon-y? We're going to find out when we speak with Dr. Kaliova tomorrow. We're going to get some science. Yes, they actually studied that. How great is that? And don't forget, if you are in the need of a great plant-based doctor or dietitian, you can go ahead and make an appointment with the Barnard Medical Center. Telemedicine appointments are available right now in more than a quarter of the country. So head over to barnardmedical.org, or you can pick up the phone, do it old school, 202-527-7500 for a full list of states of where appointments are available. And to make one for yourself, go ahead and do that today. And as you're poking around on your phone, why not head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify, look for the Exam Room Podcast by the Physicians Committee, hit that subscribe button, and if you would be so kind as to leave a 5-star rating because you love you some fiber, we would appreciate it. For today, that is all the time that we have. My big thanks again to Drs. Neal Barnard and the Gut Health MD, Dr. Will Bulsiewicz. Thank you guys so very much for joining us, and to the crew behind the scenes that makes this plant-based magic happen every single day. Appreciate you guys as well. And to the exam roomies for tuning in. You all are the absolute best. Until tomorrow, on behalf of everyone here at the Physicians Committee, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. Thanks again so very much for watching. Remember, stay safe, take a stand, and keep it plant-based.